The Trent-Severn Waterway stretches 386 kilometers from Lake Ontario to Lake Huron, and right in the middle is Kawartha Lakes. This beautiful part of Ontario is home to several towns and villages, which are all connected along canals, lakes, and rivers. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what I discovered as I explored the landscapes, communities, and waterways of one of Ontario's longest inhabited areas. Before the Trent-Severn Waterway existed, there were indigenous water routes that connected Lake Ontario to Lake Huron. Thanks to these native water routes, the blueprint for the canal and lock system evolved. Most of the communities are located on the lakes, rivers, and canals. And the waterways are used daily by locals and visitors to travel from one town to the next. The Trent-Severn Waterway is actually part of a much larger system of navigable waterways called the Great Loop, which stretches from Florida to the St. Lawrence Seaway to Chicago and back down to the Gulf of Mexico. Traveling around the lakes and canals, you'll see boats from all over North America.
That's Wyoming, yeah.
And one of the best ways to explore the area is by following the locks. Not only are they a beautiful feature in many of the downtowns in Kawartha Lakes, but they're also engineering marvels. Like this one, Lock 36 on the Trent-Severn Waterway. This is Kirkfield, and it's the second highest hydraulic lift lock in the world. It's also the highest point along the canal system, at 256.2 meters above sea level. The engineering and design is so interesting too, as the canal is actually a water overpass as opposed to the road going through a tunnel below ground and under the river. It looks relatively modern, but the lift lock construction began in 1900 and opened about 5 to 7 years later. The giant metal tubs sit on hydraulic pistons, which raises and lowers boats to the next section of the canal. Another amazing lift lock, and technically outside of the Kawartha Lakes boundaries, is the Peterborough lift lock. This one is a little higher than Kirkfield, making it the highest hydraulic boat lift in the world. It took 8 years to construct and opened shortly before Kirkfield. Incredibly, the original concrete and steel framework is still in use today, over 120 years after it first opened. And just down the street from the lift lock is a very impressive museum. This is the Canadian Canoe Museum. Is there anything more Canadian than that? But it's seriously impressive and definitely worth checking out. The museum covers everything you could possibly want to know about canoes, from the earliest indigenous dugout canoes to Gordon Lightfoot's canoe, to canoes from around the world. There's even historic paintings from the 1800s featuring canoes. The exhibit space is 20,000 square feet with about 100 canoes and kayaks on display. They actually have over 650 canoes and kayaks in their archives. The museum has some great interactive displays for kids. There's also a cafe and patio off the main lobby, and you can even rent canoes and go for a paddle on the lake behind the museum. We got rained out here, but we did get out on the water one morning in Bobcaygeon. And before we get in the water, I just want to take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Tomtoc. I was able to pack everything I needed for a 3-day trip to Kawartha Lakes into the Navigator T66 lightweight 40-liter travel backpack. At these dimensions, the T66 40-liter is carry-on compatible, and I verified this with my preferred airlines Air Canada, Porter, and WestJet. In fact, I used the T66 as a carry-on for a recent trip out west, and I was able to pack all my camera gear into this bag, and it worked great. But for this trip, it provided all the space I needed for 3 days worth of clothes, extra shoes, and toiletries. And thanks to the packing cubes provided by Tomtoc, I was able to stay organized. There's the 10-liter expandable cube, great for compressing your larger clothing items. There's the 8-liter clean and dirty split bag, where you can tuck away those dirty items and not accidentally wear yesterday's underwear. The travel shoe bag, which is so smart because I'm always trying to keep my dirty shoes off my clothes as I pack. And the 3-liter small cube, which could work for smaller items like toiletries. Another great feature of this bag is the clamshell opening, which makes it easy to pack and organize like a suitcase. And that's not the only compartment. You also get this separate back compartment with 2 sleeves for your laptop and tablet. I'm actually able to fit both my 16-inch and 14-inch MacBooks and a hard drive and charger, no problem. It opens 180 degrees as well, which makes it security and customs friendly. And with the additional zipper, you can access both sides of the bag if needed. The bag is made from recycled ripstop polyester with premium YKK zippers, and the bag comes with a 2-year warranty. Thank you so much to Tomtoc for supporting the channel and providing me with these awesome travel bags. If you want to pick up these bags for your next trip, check out the link below. A trip to Kawartha Lakes isn't complete without getting out on the water. If you don't own your own boat, there's plenty of rental options. I'll talk about those in a bit. An early morning paddle in a kayak is a great way to experience the waterways. And people have been exploring and fishing these waters for more than 12,000 years. Indigenous tribes were the first people to migrate into the area. Archaeologists have documented their arrival in the area with sites found on Pigeon, Rice, Balsam, and Stony Lake. These sites are some of the earliest human habitations known in Ontario. Around 10,000 years ago, the area was looking much like it does today, and evidence of cooking, stone tool making, and ceremonial burial grounds have been found around the shorelines and islands of Kawartha Lakes. If you're not in the mood for paddling, rent a jet ski from the Buckeye Center. They have lots of different boat rentals to choose from, but ripping around the lakes and islands on a jet ski is probably the most fun. Evidence of hunting, fishing, trapping, and foraging of wild rice have been uncovered on Big Island and Pigeon Lake, dating back 2,500 years. Indigenous people have inhabited the Kawartha Lakes continuously since the glaciers receded, but things changed when Europeans arrived. Around 1615, Samuel de Champlain traveled through the region. Whoa! As more Europeans arrived and settled around the Kawarthas, regional warfare broke out amongst the indigenous people, with evidence suggesting battles were fought along the Otonabe River, Rice Lake, Fox Island, and Buckhorn Lake. Up until the late 19th century, the area was called the Trent Valley. Once the railways arrived, tourism became practical. The Muskoka Lakes were already a successful destination at the time, and if the local government could come up with a similar moniker, the Grand Trunk Railway was willing to promote the region alongside Muskoka Lakes. So a small group of local officials and interested parties got together to come up with a new name. At the time, people were fascinated with the indigenous culture, so the group wanted to find a native name for their new travel destination. They met with Martha Waitung of the Curve Lake First Nations and asked her to propose a new name. She suggested Kawasa. By the time they got back to Bobcaygeon, it had become Kawartha. They sent the new name to the Acme Marketing Company of Buffalo, who added the R. They began marketing Kawartha as a pristine, natural health resort, and the name Kawartha was somehow translated to bright waters and happy lands. The marketing plan worked, and the region became a popular destination for boaters and tourists around North America. The town of Bobcaygeon was originally indigenous hunting grounds and a portage route. There's several theories about where the name originated. One possibility is that it came from a Mississauga Ojibwe word meaning at the very shallow currents, or at the clipped cascades, or at current rocky narrows. I read a book called 6 Years in the Bush by Thomas Need, who was the founder of Bobcaygeon. The book is a compilation of his journal entries from the 1830s when he arrived from England and established a homestead in what is now Bobcaygeon. In the book, he describes interacting with the natives during his time here. An Indian camp has been formed on the opposite shore of the lake for the autumn hunt. 2 of the men brought me a present of a haunch of venison with an invitation to join them in the chase. In 2 days, we succeeded in taking 3 deer, one of which fell to my rifle. The book is fascinating, and there's a ton of small stories and journal entries like that in this book. I just find it so interesting to hear a first-person account of what life was like prior to European settlement. Obviously, places like Toronto and places closer to Lake Ontario started to develop in the area, but places like the Kawartha Lakes were still mostly untouched. Bobcaygeon sits in the heart of Kawartha Lakes and is a busy section along the Trent-Severn Waterway. Many towns along the canals, like Bobcaygeon, are known as trail towns. They're designated as such because they offer travelers along the waterways accommodation, food, retail, and whatever support boaters and paddlers may need on their journey. Bobcaygeon is also the location of the very first lock built on the Trent-Severn Waterway. It was first built in 1833 to accommodate the growth of the small community in Bobcaygeon and the other small settlements that were slowly evolving. In his journal, Thomas Need talks about the very first canal and the earliest settlers to arrive. The intention of the government is to cut a canal between Lake Sturgeon and Pigeon Lake for the purpose of avoiding the present dangerous river and rapids, and connecting the navigation of the 2 lakes. Such an undertaking I had in some degree anticipated when I selected my lot of land, but I had not imagined that it would have been so soon executed. Yesterday, 2 large flat-bottom boats arrived, with the families and effects of the new settlers. The sound of the axe and the hammer and the mixed voices of women and children fell strangely but delightfully on my ear as I strolled along the shore this evening, a striking contrast to the time only a few weeks past when I was left alone in the howling wilderness. The small settlement became a village, which became a town. In 1921, a swing bridge was constructed. Most of the town is located on 3 islands and connected by several bridges. On one of these islands, in the middle of Bobcaygeon and just next to the swing bridge, is the Buckeye Center, which offers suites and lake house rentals. We booked Unit B of the lake house suites. It sits right on the waterfront, overlooking the Bobcaygeon River, with Lock 32 right behind it. The suite itself is newly renovated and features 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It's really spacious, has a beautiful kitchen, and big windows showing off the views outside. With a patio right on the river and direct access to the water, it's such a good home base for a few days while exploring the Kawartha Lakes. And with their boat rentals right there, you have your choice of jet skis, pontoon boats, stand-up paddle boards, fishing boats, whatever you're into. They have a great retail store too, with everything from water skis and boating gear to men's and women's apparel. If you follow the Trent-Severn Waterway west, you'll reach the town of Fenlon Falls. Like Bobcaygeon, Fenlon is also a trail town, and it's a popular destination for boaters traveling the loch system. The downtown is really nice, and there's several dockside restaurants and patios. The loch itself is worth exploring as the change in elevation is pretty dramatic. The original locks were built in the 1880s to navigate around Fenlon Falls. Thomas Need described seeing the falls for the first time in the 1830s, which were not called Fenlon Falls at the time. This evening, I visited Cameron Falls, a grand and most romantic cascade, by which the surplus waters of Lake Fenlon are discharged over the broad shelf of limestone rock into a deep gulf 50 feet below. On either side, the shore was fringed with dwarf oaks and covered with flowers and herbage, rendered more brilliant by ever-rising clouds of spray. Above sloped a lofty hill, crowned with pines of giant growth, from the summit of which I beheld the broad expanse of the glassy lake, then lit by the evening sunbeams, and contrasting beautifully with the deep shade in which the mass of forest lay buried. Obviously, it was more pristine and less populated back then, but there's still that first impression of the falls and lakes of the Kawarthas that is relatable today. It wasn't just the main waterways that encouraged settlement. Along the tributaries and distributaries, settlers could take advantage of the vast amounts of water flowing through the area. A really interesting settlement like this is Kinmount, located on the Burnt River. John Hunter, founder of the village, built the first mill near the waterfall in town. In 1876, the railway was built, which helped the industry in town grow. Logs could be floated down the river to town, and the mill used water power from the river to saw the logs. The finished products could be loaded on railway cars that were brought right to the mill doors. Ownership changed over the years, and a few versions of the mill actually burnt down. One fire even burnt down the entire main street of Kinmount. Eventually, the mill was entirely owned by John Austin. The mill became one of the largest in the county. It operated until the 1970s. In the 1990s, it was restored and turned into a park and heritage site. The nearby historic railway station, which was spared by the fires, is now a museum. It's supposed to be pretty good, but it was closed the day I visited. And thanks to the owner of Kinmount B&B for inviting me up to his property and providing me this bird's eye view of the village. Today, Kinmount serves mostly the tourism industry and boaters and cottagers coming into town for provisions. I tried to visit the infamous Kinmount theaters, which everyone told me to do, but the day we tried to go, it was pouring rain, and I guess every other parent was looking for something to do with their kids, so it was sold out. We'll have to try again next time we're up here, but I'm glad I got a chance to explore and learn a little bit about Kawartha Lakes, its communities, and its history. I'm Mark, and I make videos about interesting Canadian places and experiences. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. See ya.